Hello and welcome to Virtuosity. I'm Corey, one of the co-founders of Virtuosity, and I'll be leading you through this introduction to justice. You join a game of Monopoly, but not everyone starts the same. You start with half the money, they start with hotels already on the board. From the very first turn, the gap widens. Every roll, every move, they pull further ahead. And as their pile of cash grows, so does their confidence. They start talking about their strategy, their smart trades, their sharp instincts. They believe they're winning because they're better at the game. But you're not playing the same game. This isn't just a metaphor. It's the setup of a real study in social psychology. Researchers at UC Berkeley rigged a game of Monopoly by randomly assigning players more resources and advantages from the start. And what they found was striking. The advantaged players became more dominant, more boastful, and when asked why they won, they didn't mention the head start. They pointed to their own ability. The study surfaced something uncomfortable. When systems tilt in our favor, we often stop seeing the tilt. We confuse advantage with merit. We justify inequality as deserved. This is why justice matters. It helps us name the forces that quietly shape outcomes: power, privilege, bias. And it asks us to look harder at the systems we live in, to question the rules we've normalized, and to make the game more fair for everyone playing it. Because when everyone has a real chance to play and succeed, we grow stronger together. And at its core, that's not just strategy, it's basic human dignity. What do we really mean by justice? It's important to make a distinction. There's a difference between someone who serves justice and someone who is just. Serving justice is about upholding laws, enforcing rules, and delivering consequences. But people who serve justice aren't always just themselves. Being just is something deeper. It's about how you carry yourself, how you treat people day to day, how you weigh fairness in your decisions, and how willing you are to confront imbalance, even when it's inconvenient. Justice, in this sense, isn't just something you deliver, it's something you embody. It's not just about playing by the rules or treating everyone the same. Justice is about striving to create conditions where fairness thrives, where people are treated equitably, decisions are proportionate, and systems account for the unseen forces that shape outcomes. People with strong justice weigh consequences carefully. They notice who's been excluded from the conversation. They're the ones who make space for different voices, ask better questions about who's impacted and how, and take the time to explain why decisions were made, not just what it was. According to the leader character framework, justice is made up of 5 core behaviors: being equitable, ensuring people are treated in line with their needs, circumstances, and contributions; being even-handed, setting aside personal preferences to make balanced, objective decisions; being fair, considering context and adjusting your approach to maintain balance across people and situations; being proportionate, matching recognition or consequences to what's actually been earned or warranted; being socially responsible, identifying and addressing harm or imbalance in the systems you're part of. Imagine justice as your lens. When it's calibrated, it helps you see clearly, bringing hidden dynamics into focus and revealing the full picture. You notice the imbalances. You see who's been overlooked. You detect when rewards or consequences don't align with the facts. This kind of lens lets you take in more, so you can act more fairly, proportionately, and responsibly. But when justice is underdeveloped, the lens gets cloudy. You overlook things. You act on impulse or assumption. That's deficiency. When bias creeps in, outcomes become unbalanced and people are judged without context. You stop seeing the structures that shape decisions, and trust starts to erode. So how do we strengthen justice? Part of the answer lies in recognizing how easily our sense of fairness can be shaped, sometimes distorted, by the systems we're in, just like the Monopoly example at the beginning of this video. The famous Stanford prison experiment by Zimbardo revealed how quickly people conform to roles of power or submission, often at the expense of empathy and fairness. It made one thing clear: context can shape character. which means noticing the forces around us is essential. But Zimbardo also noted something else: exceptions. And through our own research, we've seen a common thread in those exceptions: strength of character. These individuals didn't just endure unjust systems, they disrupted them. Character doesn't eliminate contextual influence, but it buffers it, making space for greater agency and the capacity to push for change. By strengthening our justice and drawing on support from other dimensions, we can begin to reshape systems from within towards something more fair, more balanced, and more human for everyone. Strengthening justice doesn't happen in isolation. It depends on the reinforcement of other strengths. Humility helps you recognize what you may not see. Courage gives you the strength to name bias and rebalance power. Humanity fuels genuine care for others, reinforcing your motivation to act justly. And collaboration expands your perspective, bringing more voices into view to build a fuller, fairer picture. But if you lean too far the other way, zooming in endlessly on every nuance, you lose focus too. That's justice in excess. You overcorrect, become paralyzed by complexity, or apply the same rule without flexibility. You try so hard to treat everyone equally that you forget to treat them appropriately. You confuse uniformity with fairness. This kind of overcorrection often shows up when justice isn't supported by other dimensions, like judgment, which helps you read the context and navigate nuance, or transcendence, which helps you rise above the noise to focus on matters. It must be sharp enough to expose what others overlook, but not so tightly zoomed in that it loses sight of the full picture. Without that balance, justice can distort reality or become so narrowly focused it misses the wider forces at play. So now, take a moment to turn inward. What does it feel like when you're living the virtues of justice? When you're being equitable and fair, staying even-handed in tough calls, applying consequences with proportion, and taking responsibility for shaping better systems. How do you show up? How do others experience you? And how do you experience yourself? Of course, we all lose balance at times. When you do, which way do you tend to lean? Do you slip into deficiency, overlooking unfairness, letting bias creep in, failing to speak up? Or do you tip into excess, becoming rigid in your standards, overcorrecting, or applying rules too narrowly without seeing the bigger picture? When that happens, what does it look like in practice? How do your decisions or actions affect others? And how do they affect your sense of who you are? Are there certain dynamics, power imbalances, urgency, conflict, that tend to throw your lens out of focus? And if so, can you spot the pattern? For me, I rarely feel like I tip into excess when it comes to justice. If anything, I often feel I'm not doing enough. There's so much emerging insight, so much nuance, that I worry I'm not keeping up. I know bias still shows up in my decisions. I don't always act to address every injustice I see. And there are times I don't make resources as accessible as they should be for those who need them. That's the edge I'm working. I try to chip away at those gaps by noticing where bias might be creeping in and challenging it, by paying attention to power and privilege on my teams, and choosing to support those who've been under-resourced. One of the very reasons we built Virtuosity was to help democratize character development, because building character shouldn't be a privilege reserved for the few. Doing that requires help from other dimensions. It takes humanity, a real concern for people beyond my immediate circles, to stay committed to fairness. It takes transcendence to stay anchored in the bigger picture, that we all do better when opportunity is shared. And it takes integrity to name what I stand for, and to let those values guide my actions, even when it's inconvenient. At times, though, the complexity of it all can feel overwhelming. That's when justice needs help staying in motion. It's accountability that helps me name what's mine to do and follow through. It's temperance that lets me stay grounded and patient. And drive, that sense of urgency, reminds me that progress isn't just about patience, it's about forward motion too. Justice doesn't move on its own. It takes effort. And that effort starts by noticing. Noticing when your vision narrows, when your privilege clouds your lens, or when you're too overwhelmed to act. The more precisely you can notice where you stand, whether you're looking too closely at the details or missing the wider view, the more skillfully you can recalibrate. Sometimes that means refocusing. Other times it means widening the frame, drawing on humility, humanity, or judgment to make sure you're seeing clearly and acting accordingly. Justice isn't built in one bold decision. It's honed over time in the small, often unnoticed choices to see clearly, to examine assumptions, and to treat others with dignity. Every time you pause to consider context, to challenge bias, or to rebalance power, you're sharpening the lens of justice. But like any lens, justice needs care. Neglect it, and your vision distorts. Overextend it, and your view can narrow too far. The risk isn't only in seeing too little, it's in seeing too narrowly. And while noticing those shifts is essential, it's not enough. To strengthen justice, we need more than insight. We need structure. We need a system. That's what Virtuosity is built for. It's a training system that turns character into consistent practice, like a gym, but for who you are. You start small, one justice behavior, one deliberate focus. Then, Virtuosity guides you through bite-sized lessons and daily challenges to help you build discernment, one rep at a time. Because justice isn't just formed in moments of crisis, it's cultivated in the quiet ones, in the decisions no one sees, in the questions you keep asking, in the systems you keep questioning. And those daily actions, they're easy to skip, but they're what keep your lens clear. That's why we train, because when the stakes are high or the systems are unclear, it won't be your good intentions that guide you. It'll be your habits. So keep that lens sharp and keep building.